Food is national security, food is economy, it is employment, energy, history. Food is everything. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. The topic of discussion today is Sri Lanka facing an impending food crisis? You can also join in the conversation. The number to WhatsApp your messages is 076 656 5353. The number once again 076 656 5353. We would be delighted to take those questions to the panelists who are attending Face the Nation tonight. On to my immediate left is Newsfirst.lk, who is the consultant English news director at Newsfirst. Welcome on board, Niresh, as always. Nice to have you.
Thank you, Shami.
On to my immediate left. So joining us this evening on Face the Nation in terms of our panelists are Professor Renuka Silva, Department of Applied Nutrition, Wayamba University; Tilak Karyavasam, Executive Director, Food First Information and Action Network, Sri Lanka; Dr. Jayantha Sranaika, Director, Rice Research and Development, Department of Agriculture, as well as Emeritus Professor Atula Pereira, representing the University of Peradeniya. Let's get the ball rolling with Professor Renuka Silva, Department of Applied Nutrition, Wayamba University. Is Sri Lanka facing a food crisis at present? Your time starts now.
Yes, I think we are facing this issue in the last couple of years. We have been facing this the issue since we had this the COVID, the pandemic, and with that the globally the crisis started, and the Sri Lanka also get affected, and especially the health statistics, very recent health statistics indicates that the people have the nutritional issues. So my expertise is in nutrition, and we see, and then we got some the statistics about the nutritional problems, but not very severe as some media sometimes reported. To tell you frankly, the situation is not so serious, but people are not eating the same kind of food that they had before. And it started with the COVID, and then we had the economic crisis, global economic crisis, and then Sri Lanka also we had this issue, having this issue. So it happens because of the food. Food is internationally recognized as a right, and if people are not getting healthy, the food, safe food all the time as they wish, so then they might get nutritional problems, especially vulnerable groups like children. If they are not getting enough the energy, proteins, so then they cannot grow well. So then that affects the personal growth as well as in future the country. So there is a crisis. It's not just a local crisis, it's international crisis, but everything depends on how we manage the situation. So the future generations will get affected if the responsible politicians as well as the officers don't consider this seriously and plan, considering especially the children.
Professor Silva, you say that the situation is not as alarming as projected by many organizations, but if you look at the World Food Programme report, which was issued in February this year, it clearly states that 70% of Sri Lankan children were stunted even before the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic crisis erupted. That means their height was lower than their age, and around 15% were wasted, and 17% of children under 5 are stunted, which means they were too thin for their height. With this crisis, the nutrition situation is expected to further worsen in the coming few months.
That's right. That's why I said that even before we had this crisis, the Sri Lanka was having this the child malnutrition issue. But compared to the other the neighboring countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India, we were doing better than them. However, compared to our per capita income or the GDP, we were not so good. That's why I said that it was not very serious, means we cannot compare our situation with certain the sub-Saharan African countries like that. But within Asia, we have the problem. I didn't say that we don't have problem or we didn't have problem. We have had the problem. We are having the problem, but it has got little the aggravated during this the last 2 years. But the latest statistics came, though I think the government rejected some of those UN things. I mean, the health minister rejected, and we know that they are looking. I'm not totally denying that and saying that there's no problem, but the UN statistics were.
So you say in a nutshell that the situation has aggravated during the last 2 years.
Yes, it's
Who
obvious.
is responsible?
The responsibility should be taken by the overall the political, as well as it's a government and the state should take the responsibility, as well as because people cannot take certain decisions. They are the consumers, but the food should be available at an affordable cost. Otherwise, the people can't eat.
Thank you very much, Professor Renuka Silva, Department of Applied Nutrition, Waiambili University. And now move my attention towards Tilak Karirwasam, Executive Director, Food First Information and Action Network, Sri Lanka. What are your thoughts on the subject tonight?
Yeah, as Professor Renuka said, even though we had projected we will get a kind of a bad situation in the past, but the alarming situation what we have been experienced, it's not that much, as he said, because there were some foods which are not categorized as we in the rest of the countries were either imports or either the get as a food in the nutritious way. And my organization during this crisis, we have published the report, and we were telling about the why it is important, the food right, the right to food issue with the FAO guideline, right to food guideline, how it can be come up with the crisis situation like this, and some of those recommendations how we can use to ensure everyone's food, because in the lower part of the people who can't afford the food, and our responsibility of as the key the government and the key officials and as whole the decision makers, and they should look into the food right and everyone's food right. We have the three different principles when we talk about the food security: the affordability, availability, and accessibility. Those are very important to the common man's food, and therefore the state have a responsibility to ensure those food adequately and nutritious way. And if it is not getting as enough, and there is a crisis, and that is where we were experiencing during the pandemic, and also after along with that, this the Russian and Ukraine war has created the very big the crises within the world, especially the food production side, and also there are those two countries are the major producers of the fertilizer, and with that the most of the effects come to the countries like us, because we can't afford the price, and especially in the due to this the production the collapse, and there are the high cost of the food and which we can't afford. Even the when we try to buy from our neighboring countries, fuel price is the factor where the decision is bringing. And
Tilak, just to interrupt you for a second here. So you say that your organization's main ethos or your motto is to ensure that food for all, food is a basic human right of every human being.
Yeah.
And then you go on to say that affordability, accessibility as well as availability is important, and the government has to step in to address these issues. Let's look at the food prices or vegetable prices right now in Sri Lanka. It's over 100% more than what was experienced a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
How can the people afford? Mustn't the government issue a subsidy scheme for those who are living below the poverty line, at least to afford food or basic nutritional factors for their daily meals?
That is, of course, there is a responsibility of the government, and especially with the as you said, when it comes to the consumers, of course, when the production goes down in the country with the different factors like the drought what we are experiencing, and also the fuel prices and all other things are subject to this price hike, and especially if you are look at it the last few months, the vegetable production and the areas where they're experiencing with the drought and all that, and we know some of the farmers are not actually taking the advantage or the risk because of the last few seasons they're having the bad experience. If you look at the vegetable price today, along with that, if you analyze the seed price of the vegetables, it is triple. The price was triple because most of the vegetable seeds we are importing from the different countries.
Right.
And it is the farmers are not in a position to take this high risk to go into invest as they don't have money to invest. They are taking as a loan and go for this production, and the security what they are getting, it's very low.
Right.
And therefore they are not going to grow vegetable as it is.
Right. Thank you very much, Tilak Wasam, Executive Director of Food First Information and Action Network, Sri Lanka. I now move my attention towards Dr. Jayantha Saranayaka, Director, Rice Research and Development, Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, regarding the food crisis, in fact, at the moment we have enough quantities of food. I mean, that's the same thing mentioned by these two gentlemen also. I mean, but certain things, that we import from other countries. Say for an example, dal like thing. But at the moment, according to our newest calculation, the rice quantity which we have inside the country is sufficient for another 12 to 13 months. But this situation may vary. You know that why food crisis may take, how the food crisis may take place. You know that most of our cultivations are depending on rain, almost all, but very less irrigated area under different crops. Say for an example, during Maha season, during Yala season, our irrigated cultivation is 62% for paddy. But during the Maha season, it is 46% out of the total land area. So this food crisis may take place in different ways. I mean that sometimes that may be due to the economic situation not only in Sri Lanka but available in other countries also. Say for an example, you mentioned that India has stopped the exporting of rice to other countries, and Pakistan, I think Pakistan is also following. At the same time, if the Ukraine-Russia war continues, what would happen? They may stop, the cross-border movement may be stopped. As a result, Bangladesh like country mainly depend on wheat imported from Ukraine. They may be converted to rice. In that case, rice availability may not be sufficient for the other countries. And you know that earlier couple of months I got this data, and rice availability per person was 43 kilograms per hectare. In Sri Lanka, we consume 107 kilograms per head. In Sri Lanka, we consume around 107 kilograms per person. That was our rate. So at the moment, we are producing enough. Staple food, because I am from the Rice Research Institute also. I am mainly talking about rice or paddy. And we had COVID situation. Because of that, farmers were unable to access to their fields. There was a production decline. And then again, due to economic situation also, you know, most of the farmers were deprived of inputs. There was a breakdown in the input supply chain. It may be fertilizer, it may be fuel for their machineries, and it may be labor. Like that, there was a reduction. But yet now, according to the recent data, we are recovering. Say for an example, in 2022, our rice productivity went down to 2.8 metric tons per hectare. But now we are recovering. Now we hope that this season it may be around 4 metric tons per hectare. But I want to tell you, as these two gentlemen mentioned, there may be no enough access to food from different layers, some different layers in the society for food items, and the material which they consume may not be nutritionally sufficient, or nutritionally they are not providing the health requirement. Or
Dr. Sri-Lanka, now you say that there is sufficient ample rice at the moment in Sri Lanka. Am I right?
Yes.
However, if you go to a supermarket or if you go to an outlet in the country, right now there is a dearth of kiri samba.
Yes.
At these outlets. What's the reason behind
Yes.
this? So when you go to an outlet, you start thinking, isn't rice available for an ordinary citizens to consume?
Yeah.
So there is a big question mark, and that raises an eyebrow as far as the people are concerned. Why?
Yeah, you know, in Sri Lanka, we have around 89 rice varieties. But out of these 89 rice varieties, 10 rice varieties are grown at large scale. Say for example, the variety 8362 is the number one variety. It takes around 18% of the total land area. But Kiri Samba is BG360. People have more preference for this variety to other varieties. That is because perhaps there may be taste, that may be the nature of the grape. You know that cultivation depends on the demand from the millers also. Sometimes it is happening in Sri Lanka. Though we introduce many new varieties, many new technologies, sometimes farmers go for Kira Samba or BG60, sometimes they go for other varieties. What we experience, what we noticed during last couple of seasons, people are not cultivating Kiri Samba much. That may be the reason. The other reason, because I can't comment on that exactly, perhaps there may be some quantities with millers or other farmers. They are also having maybe.
Let's look at the numbers quickly, Dr. Sri-Lanka. Annually, the rice consumption in Sri Lanka stands between 2.5 million and 2.6 million. If you divide that by 12, you get approximately around 215,000 metric tons of rice consumed monthly in Sri Lanka. How much of rice stocks do we have right now in the country?
No, according to the yield figures I am telling, but I cannot comment on the quantities which are possessed by millers and the other organizations, because we don't have that data. But I am calculating, because according to the acreage, I mean the number of hectares which
But I'm sure the Paddy Development Board must be having
they are having
certain
some
numbers.
quantities.
Yeah.
Must be having some quantity. Big millers must be having some quantities. Even some small farmers like in Ampara, Trincomalee, and Batticaloa like areas, they are having some quantity. But I am telling taking the production figures, this may sufficient for another more than 12 months, provided that there is no drought in the forthcoming season. Then there will be another scenario. We
Okay.
cannot predict on that
Right.
at the moment.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jan Saranaka, Director of the Rice Research and Development Department of Agriculture. So what you're trying to say is, Dr. Saranaka, right now there is no issue with regard to rice production in the country. However, if the situation worsens, may it be a drought or may it be severe weather, extreme weather conditions, then the situation may change. Are we expecting something of that sort to happen in October, November, December with the intermonsoon season, and then come January, are we going to face a drought? Is that in the cards? Because the meteorology department has clearly indicated that.
Yeah, you are correct. According to the newest data from the meteorology department, there will be severe or heavy rains during the months of October, November, and December.
So these numbers will change.
No, what they are now with lots of faith they are telling it. And after that, January onwards, there may be a drought. So what would happen? So if we cultivate in time, in case of rice, we can manage this situation. But if there are no rains after January, I mean January 1st onwards, then there will be a problem for next yellow season. Then for the next yellow season, we have to think of that and we have to get prepared to face the situation. And this for rice.
Right.
And vegetables and other things, they are different.
So it seems like an alarming situation right now, Niresh, because of the fact that India has already reported one of the worst situations in terms of their food production, and they have banned most of the exports to other countries as well. So when that comes into play, we are in a severe crisis right now, but we'll discuss about all that momentarily. I want to quickly move my attention towards Emeritus Professor Atula Pereira, University of Peradeniya.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me. Actually, I'm not representing the University of Peradeniya. I'm from the University of Peradeniya as Emeritus Professor. Thank you. Yeah, I see.
Thank you very much for making that clarification, Professor Atula.
We all saw a situation in this country about a couple of years ago when a very serious decision was made within 24 hours to stop the use of chemical fertilizer. That for us defied science, it defied common sense, it defied logic. It created a huge, massive problem. And we were wondering why such a step was taken. And now we are feeling the results of it. It was predicted. Many scientists predicted 30%, 40% reduction in agriculture production due to that decision. We couldn't understand the basic fundamentals of science. We couldn't understand that what we were using were varieties, not only us, all over the world, varieties that were produced during the Green Revolution. These were varieties that responded to chemicals. That's how they were designed. They responded to chemicals. They responded to chemical fertilizer. They responded to pesticides, herbicides. Those are the varieties that we're using all over the world. And then we were doing well, we were okay. And then you said, no, tomorrow we are not giving you this fertilizer. Use something else. So what happens? How can such varieties give that production? They must collapse. We collapsed, we got into a pit. We had to get out of this pit. We could understand the difference between compost, biofertilizer, liquid fertilizer, nano fertilizer. They were all coming into this country from everywhere. So there was no proper national plan. There are policies. If you ask every political party, they have a policy. Okay, there are policies. But how do you implement that policy? You must have a plan to implement those policies. There has to be a strategy. Every strategy must have an action plan. Nothing. without anything, without knowing where you're going. When you take a drastic decision like that, we are suffering now because of that. That I see as one of the main reasons for this debacle, for this serious situation that we are facing today. So it's not a policy. Policies are there, but we need action plans, how to implement these policies. That is what we need. And I think now this is a situation that we must get out of this pit and create a new future. This is my logo. A new future for our children and their children.
Professor
Yes.
Atula, I just want to ask you now, the fertilizer ban came into effect on the in April 2021.
Yes.
And then subsequently, several months later,
Yes.
the ban was lifted, and you could bring in
Yes.
fertilizer as well.
Yeah.
So, are you trying to tell us that the effects that was seen in April 2021 is even felt today in the agriculture industry in the country?
Yes, once it affects the cultivation, to get out of it, you can't have just one season to get out of it. It will take several seasons to get back to that situation where you were. You can't just okay, next season I'm going to get in, next season it will be okay, fine. It will take a few, but that particular thing that like a bomb blast, it has effect. Added to that came the fuel problem. Added to that came the COVID problem. This whole complex situation arose. And where were our plans? We are talking about drought. Couldn't we predict that? Couldn't we predict El Nino? Surely. Today the technology is so advanced. You can predict not days, weeks, months ahead. Why couldn't we predict this? And then if we could predict, now doctor said here that maybe January, February, if there is no drought, can we not predict it early? And if we can predict it early, surely we can plan for it. We can plan what we are going to do if such a thing happens.
Professor, just to get some clarity on this now, based on the understanding, I still remember when we used to be students in school, we used to be taken to the Med Department for a field visit.
Yes.
And most often than not, these meteorologists, what they tell us is, because Sri Lanka is an island nation,
Yes.
you cannot predict the climatic conditions in the country. In countries, example like in the US or Australia, if they tell you it's 6 o'clock, it's going to snow at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
If they say the hurricane is going to strike at 6:10, it's going to happen at 6:10.
Yes.
But in Sri Lanka, it's different. Is that something that can be
do you think
bought as a logical argument?
We could have said that 10 years ago. We could have said that 15 years ago. Today the world is so advanced. The technology is so advanced. We can predict, surely. We can ask the meteorologist, but can't you predict, okay, this is an island, this is a tropical island. We can predict, we predict the storms that come. We are saying that tomorrow there will be a storm is coming there. We can see those swirls coming around. Why is it that? What is preventing us
but
from
within a day, Professor Atula, can you plan out an agriculture industry as a whole within a span of a couple of days? It has to be done months in advance,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah, we can. Meteorological departments in other countries, they predict months ahead.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Thank you very much, Emeritus Professor Atula Pereira from the University of Peradeniya. Let's open the floor for questions. Niresh, all yours.
Thank you, Shamir. And I'm sure our viewers will be delighted to hear that our good friend Shamir has been appointed as a group director to the main board of the Capital Maharaja Group.
Thank you very much.
Heartiest
for that.
congratulations
Thank you very much for that
on behalf
announcement.
of our viewers and, of course, News First.
Thank you very much, Niresh, for that announcement.
We expect a celebration.
For sure.
So, my first question is to Professor Atula.
Yes.
And you said some very strong words. You said that there was a lack of science, a lack of common sense, and a lack of logic.
Yes.
in the decisions that were
Yep.
taken, especially with regard to the fertilizer
Yes.
ban. But Professor, now we are discussing the high possibility of another such crisis due to the country's bankruptcy and of course the weather conditions and the global conditions. But we have the same politicians still in those positions.
Yes.
That is of course a constitutional matter.
Yes.
But you can't eat your constitution. You have to give your people food to eat.
Yes.
And should it not be the situation now that our civil servants should step up and tell the politicians what's what with regard to what we need to do with our agriculture?
Definitely, sir. I totally agree with you. How are we going to do that? How are we going to tell them, no, don't? During that crisis, I had a request from a very high personality to tell him about this, what's going to. I gave him. I told him this is the way to do. If you are doing organic farming, do it this way, and do this. It's fantastic. This is very good. But it didn't go beyond him. I don't know why. It didn't go. I told the secretary at that time, you are importing a shipload of compost, biofertilizer. What is it made up of? What are the microbes used? Don't know. We don't. That's why I say it defies logic. We must know what we are doing. The fundamental. So people didn't know the difference between compost and biofertilizer. So how can we move forward? They didn't know the difference between biofertilizer and liquid fertilizer. We saw liquid fertilizer being brought. We asked, what is this? Nobody knew. They didn't know what it was made up of, what the nutrients were. Nobody knew, and the dogs were going at it, and there was a huge commotion.
To
So
follow
how do we take this message? That's why I asked you at the beginning. Don't we have people from the decision makers listening to this discussion that we are having? Can't we get them to at least listen to this? Now we are speaking wonderful things, and if these things are not taken up by the decision makers, we are back in the same place.
Our responsibility at the end of the day, Professor, is to make a public discourse about
Yes.
it and exert pressure to the stakeholders concerned to take action with regard to the matters that are being discussed
Yes.
and are in the public domain. And
Yes.
that's what we as a media organization strive to achieve.
That's excellent. I think if you can, yes, we need to do that, because like you said, to get out of this, we need to get this, as you said, the same lot to make these changes.
Yes, to follow up, Professor,
Yes.
you also said something shocking, that there's no proper national plan.
Yes.
But last week I read somewhere that there's a national plan for tourism which is almost complete, which is 95% complete, they said, and that's wonderful for that industry. Every industry should have that. But we are an agricultural country, 2,500 years of agriculture, and we don't have a national plan for it.
So even the tourism, are you saying it's a national plan or a policy?
I believe it's a strategic plan up to 2025.
Okay, strategic plan. That's fine.
Yes.
That's fine. But there are policies, but there wasn't a plan. So we saw, no? During that period, there was no plan. Suddenly we saw we could have a lovely plan for organic agriculture. We can. My personal view, with all my experience as a UN consultant, FAO consultant that deals with food, environment, human health, we can easily have a plan parallel. Organic farming, chemical fertilizer farming, go parallel. That's the plan we want. How to implement that? Strategies. Each strategy must have an action plan. That can be done with time targets and also, very important, sir, accountability. Why did this not happen here? Why did this not go from here to here? Who is accountable?
So,
Yes.
Professor Atul makes a quite important point stating about accountability, Dr. Saranayaka. Let's look at the last few weeks with regard to the water that was held in catchment areas to generate electricity and not being used for farming land. How do you view this in a perspective from the Ministry of Agriculture? Because we saw statements that are being issued by the Minister of Agriculture himself saying that he pressurized the government during the cabinet meetings to release water to farmlands, but this did not happen. But what is your take on this?
So according to the Honorable Minister's statement also, they were trying to release some water from especially in the Udavala area because land area around more than 6,000 hectares, if I remember well, it has to be cultivated because they are under the stage where the crop can be damaged. They were trying to release some water, and but you know, in some places we also have seen this land cultivation is not there. Sometimes the farmers cultivate the land extent beyond the limit of water supply. I mean that the water cannot be supplied to total land area, and sometimes you know, the farmers also do not pay proper attention to water management, and this is one of the things. If I try to elaborate on that, and in fact we have to have a proper water management system. I mean it is the responsibility of farmers, responsibility of general public, responsibility of all the policymakers also.
Right. So just looking at this issue that has cropped up in the recent past, Dr. Saranayaka, how much of farmlands were destroyed as a result of not releasing water to farmlands?
Well,
have you estimated the number?
Yeah. You know that not all the paddy lands, because we were talking about paddy lands mainly, and in certain areas we were talking about vegetable cultivations also.
So let's talk about
But
paddy.
Yeah, out of those paddy lands, some are cultivated rain-fed. Those paddy lands, I don't have the exact figures at the moment with me. Some paddy lands in Kurunegala districts and Hambantota and Monragal districts also, which were rain-fed farming, they were destroyed by drought. And some paddy lands, according to maybe it's around 25,000, 30,000 hectares, but that figure is not very correct.
So when
they
you
were
say
damaged.
25,000 hectares,
Yeah,
Dr.
that
Saranayaka?
figure is not exactly correct.
Yeah,
right?
so let's just assume it's 25,000 hectares at the moment.
Yeah.
For clarity's sake,
Yeah.
25,000 hectares of paddy land, how much of rice does it produce?
It depends on. Can I tell you the total figure? Generally, we cultivate 850,000 hectares, 850,000 hectares per year for Maha season, and for around 450,000 hectares for Yala season. That means altogether we cultivated around 13,000 hectares.
Yeah.
Right. Those paddy fields which dried due to the unavailability of water, there will be sometimes it may be 100% yield losses, but 100% yield losses from those affected fields.
So how much are we saying approximately?
But that's what I'm coming to tell you. But according to these figures, it will not affect our national figure. According to the present situation, national figure at a large scale. I mean that there may be damage. But say for an example, yellowing was there. There were some damages, and the total paddy production was affected in the country. But according to say for an example, suppose we are getting 4.5 metric tons per hectare, then that will be the quantity which we are going to deprive of.
Okay, but it gets back to the earlier question that I asked you, Dr. Saranayaka. You are saying that 12 months we have ample rice.
Yes.
But then just in August we had a severe problem with regard to not issuing water to paddy farmlands in the country and the severe drought that affected their rain. So how could you safely say that Sri Lanka has ample stocks, sufficient stocks for the next 12 months.
What we calculated based on the production figures which we are going to receive and which we received during last season. And according to that...
But I thought the other season is from March to August.
Yeah, March to August. Generally it is March to August, and Maha season from September to February.
Yeah, that's
right? So what we have produced so far, that may be sufficient even if there is a 10% yield reduction, 10% arbitrary value, right? If there is a 10% yield reduction, that may be sufficient for another more than 12 months. But I'm telling that we can manage with this situation because most of the farmlands were harvested. Say for example, high production area like Ampara, Batikro, and most parts of Kurunagala and some parts of Anuradhapura, like they were harvested. But that area, but some paddy lands are there like Polonnaruwa. They are at younger stage. That crop may be affected if water is not provided to those fields.
Yeah, but don't you think that this situation would have been arrested if water was released to the paddy farmlands in the country?
But in other areas except this, what is that? Udavalava reservoirs. From other reservoirs, water was directed to paddy fields. The water was released, and that problem persisted. Remained only with that reservoir, Samanala, that reservoir, not with the other reservoir. Now that area was affected, and rain-fed areas were affected. In fact, it's a different story. Then they were in concurrence. There's a department, Ministry of what they call this power and energy and the irrigation of the agriculture ministry. They should be in concurrence for such matters.
So, just a clarification, Dr. Senaka. When you say that we have sufficient stocks of rice for the next 12 months, you are relying on the proper harvest of the next year or so, is it?
No. Last Maha season plus this year season, because most of the paddy lands have already been harvested.
Right. So that is actual stocks of rice.
Yeah.
Okay. However, this of course is not a challenge which goes away after 1 year, and we were discussing about the fact that with this El Nino La Nina phenomenon which occurs globally in the weather every 6 years, it's very likely, according to the Met departments of the world, that and especially ours, that next January to April will also be a drought, in which case we would be eating into our stocks of rice, but our production would be less, so the problem would simply keep going. Isn't that?
No, it can continue. That means if the Maha season is okay with the available rains, so we will have sufficient quantity, because suppose we cultivate around 0.85 million hectares, and if we multiply it by 4.5, this is the average yield of the country earlier also, and that will be sufficient for another 8 months like that. But as the Department of Agriculture, under the Ministry of Agriculture, we also have a preparedness for this situation, what is to be done during the next season, provided that drought doesn't continue throughout the year. Right. Then there will be a different scenario.
So just getting back to Professor Venugo Silva. Professor, I want to drag your attention to the World Bank report which was issued in 2022, because the government seemed to have conflicting opinions with the World Food Program report. So let's look at the World Bank report, which the multilateral agency which supports Sri Lanka in terms of financial aid as well. A quarter of the population is estimated to live below the poverty line, which is approximately around 5.5 million people, which compromises their ability to access sufficient nutritious food. Malnutrition is a long-standing concern, particularly high among women and children. Nearly 1/3 of children under 5 are malnutrition in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
So this is a major concern.
That is not the figure denied by the government, because very recently the released statistics from the health department also overall agree with that 1/3 of our children are suffering from some kind of the nutritional problems, the different the age categories. But it did not, what I said was, it did not occur because of this the economic crisis and the COVID issue. We had this and we are having this problem, but we need to find the solutions. That is true. But the government denied some statistics given by the UN.
The problem is, Professor Renuka, how can we find a solution based on what Dr. Siranayake said? Dr. Siranayake itself said right now, a couple of seconds ago, the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Power and Energy are not working together.
That's right.
As a result of that, we are facing a crisis. And you are saying it's always good for us to work together and find a solution. How can we find a solution when we have a crisis of this sort, even in government ranks?
Okay. Nutrition is not one person's or one ministry's responsibility. It's not health ministry's responsibility, and it is not agriculture ministry's responsibility, and it's not education ministry's responsibility. It's a multi-sectoral thing. So some governments, I don't want to mention which government, but several other governments tried to give solutions. So it's a multi-sectoral combined effort, and there was the nutrition secretariat under the president, and it was the arm which directed the different departments and the ministries, and they wanted to put them in one track. And we have a nutrition policy in the country, not like agriculture policy, which is not written and it's still in a draft, but at least we have nutrition policy, and this is widely accepted by not the local the scientists and the experts, but internationally. Now that has to be it's a policy, but it's not the action. Policies must be converted to actions. Yep. Actions must be coordinated by some powerful body, and especially the nutrition things, since it is not governed or controlled by one department or one ministry, there must be a superpower thing. Was in the presidential secretary, but in the last couple of years and currently it's not active. So we have multi-sectoral nutrition action plan. It's written, documented, printed, everything is there, but no one is now taking responsibility. That's a pathetic situation. So if the action is taken by powerfully, it has to be taken, because it's very difficult to tell something to the Ministry of Agriculture as well as to the Ministry of Health. They are not working together. As an academic, I have to tell. But there must be some very the top level somebody to tell that, so you have to work together.
The top level somebody is the president of the country.
Yeah, that's why the presidential secretariat legally has this the power, as well as the nutrition secretariat. But unfortunately, it's not working. Everyone knows that. It's not a secret.
No, I'm still trying to figure out, Professor Renuka, on the point that you mentioned before, saying that this is not an alarming situation as projected. But looking at these figures over and over again, because of the fact that I like a little bit of numbers when it comes to matters of this sort. 5.3 million people are either reducing meals or skipping meals.
That's right.
And at least 65,600 people are severely food insecure.
That's right. So that is, food security is, food insecurity is a problem. Because of the food insecurity, the people will get nutritional problems. So I didn't say that we are doing well, and so the problem is there. But the solutions must be taken, and agriculture ministry, what they produce is very important, because they are not producing, but they are directing the production. If rice production reduce, then definitely our people will.
But all of them are to be blamed, no, Professor Renuka?
Yes, yes. The responsibilities have to be taken by everyone, not only the politicians, but the officials. Certain things are beyond our control, as others mentioned, that the war situations, Ukraine one. But locally, there are solutions that we all should sit together and take immediate action, and it has to be taken. Otherwise, the children will suffer mainly. Pregnant women will suffer mainly. So, action has to be
Professor Renuka, let's talk about that. I mean, we talk about nutrition and malnutrition and children getting stunted and so on. But what then happens? What is the impact? And a few days ago, Shamir, I think we had a report that 85% of the children in third grade are deficient in mathematics and linguistic skills. Now, aren't these things interrelated? If you don't feed your children properly, nutritiously, isn't this exactly what will happen? That their learning prowess will certainly be affected.
Exactly. Now, let's forget about the problems in the education sector for a moment. Just to think about the health and the growth of the child and the brain and all these functional issues. If a child, I mean, since the child is born, and especially during the preschool time and also the school time, if children are not getting proper meals, starting from breakfast and the school meals, which affected because of the economic crisis. So if children are not fed well, their educational ability will be is severely affected. It's a well-known thing. So the teachers cannot take the blame of not the failure rates. So it's it's a health issue, nutrition issue.
So Tilak, now interesting thoughts that are being expressed by Professor Renuka, Professor Atula, as well as Dr. Jayanta. I want to pick your brain on why can't the government step in? Because we've seen such actions and decisions being taken by respective governments in the past. We saw during Ranasinghe Premadasa's time, biscuits and milk was distributed to school students. I was also one of the recipients of that because I went to a government school in the country. I've noticed there was the cooperative society card that was given. If you attend school every day, you get the cooperative society card where you can go to the cooperative society and buy some rations home. Why can't the government introduce matters of this sort? We've seen even during the 70s, big biscuit companies have been manufactured on the premise that they were providing biscuits to school students in the country. So why can't the government step in and introduce something that is going to help the students in the country?
Yeah, well, as Professor Atula said, there was a mismanagement by the government of the 2-3 years ago, how this policy of the organic policy, well known as organic policy, but it is called green economic principles. When it came up, I was in a kind of the understanding, because I had I am having another hat. It is called Lanka Organic Agriculture Movement. I am the president of it, and I thought this is going to be end of the organic agriculture, because if the overnight, if the decision is taken due to the economic the constraint what we had, the president thought it is a solution go to organic to avoid the spending of the fertilizer, the chemical fertilizer. That was some of the advisors has advised him to go into the organic policy, and it is not helping to the country, because no one is taking this kind of a crisis situation such a decision. As Professor Renuka said, there are problems with in the ground level. Of course, there is international agencies having also the responsibility. Because what I have seen in the last few months, the country was giving the FAO and WFP and USAID was giving some kind of a help to the country with the name of the food supply. But what has given? And we should look at it in a different way. They gave it to each family 50 kilos rice, 20 kilos of lentils, and 10 liters of oil. This is not the nutritious food. It is good something getting to the people, but as a responsibility of the international organization who are talking about malnutrition, and we, civil society as us, this is not the way to supply as a responsible institution who are also talking about the malnutrition and all other things. And the government also having a responsibility to ask from them what kind of a food you all are trying to distribute. Because what I heard from the UN agencies and also the government food security programs, and they were requested what is mostly used and mostly needed. But it is not the nutrition division has advised and also the requested. And there is a policy in the WFP, World Food Program. If they distributing food, they should purchase from the country, not from importing food. If there is a scarcity, it can be bring from outside. But what was happened? They have brought some food from outside and distributed here, and luckily it is helping one way, because we can keep the stocks as it is with the.
But even the quality of the food that are being imported to the country, isn't that a big question mark as well?
It is because the food was distributed, especially in the lentils, it went with the yellow lentils. I have visited Mullaitivu and even the Vavuniya. The people used to say, "Oh, we can eat vade; it's very cheap." I was asking why it is, because the government, these agencies are distributing the lentils in the 10 kilos, and it is more than enough for few months. People used to sell it out, and the vade producers are giving very cheap price, and that was something. Because when I asked from the people why you all are selling it, it can't be cheap because the low quality, and that has happened, and what has given to the people is a low quality.
But what I don't understand is Tilak, when you talk about dal and the lentils that you're talking about, we think that lentils are coming mostly to Sri Lanka from countries like India. It is not.
No,
we are getting it from Australia.
I am not saying that. It is coming from Canada,
Australia. So
those countries.
Yeah. So, but don't you think these countries give out the best, or is it of bad quality that they send to developing nations like Sri Lanka?
That is where we were talking about the food qualities. Some of these things are. The importers are not importing as a human food.
That's right.
It is coming as a
animal feed.
Yep. These are the bigger questions. Now there are some projects going on with the FAO and the other
right.
UN agencies to keep up the food quality of the country, because some of the even though we having a very good food control division, under the health ministry, there are the different regulations to keep the food quality and all other things. We also having dietary guidelines,
Right.
and all this helping to the going for the good level of the nutrition and all that. But when it practice and the consumers affairs authority and all other the related institution food control sections, they are in a crisis situation.
Right. So we'll come back to the discussion momentarily because we need to go for a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll be discussing, is Sri Lanka facing an impending food crisis? All this and more after the short commercial break. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. We will be right back.
Life is a collection of moments when you're burnt out and you've reached your limit. When you're hurt and everything brings you down. When you're happy and nothing can bring you down. Life is a collection of moments. Jones Gold Blend Tea. For life's every moment.
We've seen how the government has taken certain measures to sort of alleviate the economic hardship.
Education should work hand in hand with child protection officers, with probation officers.
The civic space for expression, assembly, dissent is in fact shrinking.
That the Aragale also failed to focus on the real issues.
There is a large amount of pressure that's exerted by the geopolitical realities around Sri Lanka.
Devolution has meant the transfer of certain powers from people at the center, politicians, to politicians at the periphery.
The People's Platform, every Tuesday and Friday at 9:30 p.m. on TV1.
තැපැල් සේවාවේ කුරිය සේවාව ඒක ඇත්තටම ක්‍රියාත්මක වුණේ ස්පීඩ් පෝස්ට්.
ඉස්සරහට ගත්තොත් එහෙම පුනර්ජනනීය බලශක්ති වලට යනවා.
හැඳුම් කරුට හැඳුම් පතක් නිකුත් කිරීමේ හැකියාව දෙනවා.
ඇත්තටම මුතුරාජට මොකක්ද උනේ මම හිතන්නේ. ඒතර මම තමයි මුතුරාජාව පෙරහැර යනකොට නවත්තන්න කියලා කියපුවා.
වැඩිහිටිවිය දක්වා අමාවියේ ඉඳන් යනකොට පුංචි පාලමක් වගේ අවදියක්.
කවුරුත් හිතලා තියෙන ඒ ත්‍රිවිල්ලයක් මේ රින්ගන්නේ.
ඇත්තටම විදේශගත වෙනවා නම් මොනවද දැනගන්න ඕනේ.
විදේශගත වෙනවා කියන එක සැලසුමක් තියෙනවා.
තීරණය ගන්නකොට අර ඉස්සෙල්ලා කිව්වා වගේ පොඩ්ඩක් හිතලා තීරණය ගන්න.
පෙරතියා දකින්න
මුතුරාජට මොකක්ද උනේ.
Life is a collection of moments when you're burnt out and you've reached your limit. When you're hurt and everything brings you down. When you're happy and nothing can bring you down. Life is a collection of moments. Jones Gold Blend Tea. For life's every moment.
Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. Before we went for a break, Niresh was about to pose a question to the panelists. Niresh, the ball is in your court.
Thank you, Shamir. So, Professor Atula,
yes.
I just want to point out that we were discussing there's such a problem between institutions in the government and getting institutions to work together. But that seems really strange because here we bring together around this round table, we bring people, professionals from many different organizations, both private and government, and they speak very clearly and they cooperate very well with each other. You four gentlemen are a case in point. But when we think that the CEB and the Mahaveli ministry don't talk to each other, don't cooperate, what's really going on?
That is why I said initially, if you have a plan, a national plan, that national plan will indicate where these institutes come in. I'll tell you an example. We want to improve the quality of our food, the quality of the food that we produce. Now, how do we ensure that? We have a very well established Sri Lanka Standards Institute, SLSI. We have a very well established Sri Lanka Accreditation Board. These are the people who show the standards. These are the standards that must be followed if you are producing this food, this food, this food and this food. Accreditation Board, we say this lab, these testing laboratories are accredited. Their information is valid. These are the laboratories that are accredited. These are the factories that are accredited. Then we get this quality thing coming up. These are the institutes that should be roped into our plans. Then in the plan there is an activity. The activity is to accredit the lab. Then who is going to do it? The action plan by whom? Sri Lanka Accreditation Board. Standards of this food, the meat products, for example, standards or the organic product standards, Sri Lanka SLSI comes into it. This should be in the plan. If you just say standards is there, accreditation boards, and nothing like you said, they are just there. They are each one there. Personally, if I know somebody, I can go and get it done. But if there's a national plan, we can get these things in the plan. In the plan itself, these things should be there. Then they come into the picture. Then the accountability is there in the last column. Who is responsible for getting the Sri Lanka Accreditation Board to accredit the laboratories? Who? The Additional Secretary, Ministry of Health, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, they are the ones. Accountability is there in the plan. Then they come in. Otherwise, it's like you said, it's just there. So that is how these things can come in. Met Department must work together with the Ministry of Agriculture and give them well ahead of time the weather changes. We are talking about climate change. If we can't predict the weather in 5 days, how can we talk about climate change? How can we? Who is going to say yes? There is climate change in this Sri Lanka. Climate change is everything. When we can't, you are saying we can't predict for 5 days. So then we have to upgrade this. We don't need this. SLSI is well established. The Sri Lanka Accreditation Board is well established. Okay, then if the Met Department cannot give this prediction, I'm sure they can. Surely upgrade it. Upgrade it. Give whatever they want, and it has become a problem. It is not coming into this picture. They must come into this picture. They must be able to. Actually, if you take your phone and say, they do that. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they say sunshine, rain, humidity is there. Met Department. So why are they saying they can't? Tropical countries, there are many. They do fine. Small island economies. We are one of them. New Zealand. We, Seychelles. Small island economies. They have similar problems. They do it fantastically well. So it's just to, like you said, why should somebody from the top do that? Why do we need the president to take these decisions? When there are ministers, when there are secretaries, they must take these decisions.
No, why is the problem is, Professor Atula, it's all well and good to say this now today. Yesterday we saw the State Minister of Ports Authority accusing the Cabinet Minister of Ports Authority of corruption and not letting his job to be done.
Yeah.
We saw several years ago when the organic fertilizer campaign was started, how the GMOA president had a hand in that.
Yes.
Right? He spoke about kidney ailments at that time. Right? This is a country full of jokers. Right? We have people who try to dictate terms to us, and then try to take us on a ride. And we get onto the bandwagon and go behind the politicians. Shouldn't this culture change at the end of the day?
Definitely, this is the thing we are facing, the wall, brick wall that we are facing, how to break it. So what do? We don't need, I remember at that time, sir, there were lots of committees appointed. 12-member, 15-member committee. For the first meeting, 12 members come, next meeting 8 come, the 4 don't come. They don't come. The next meeting, those 4 come, the next 6, they don't come. You need 3 or 4 experts. 3 or 4 experts. Get the framework done. We have enough experts in this country. Enough experts. They are silently waiting. We are not making use of them.
But are they silently waiting?
Yes.
Because they are being crowded out by the politicians.
Yes.
So do we need politicians to head these committees at all? Because I'm sorry, very few of our politicians would ever bother to read a report.
Yes.
And most would never understand what's in a report. So why do they need to be in the room at all when we have learned professors, doctors and so on, other professionals, ministry secretaries who can be on those committees, and one of them can share?
Definitely. That is the thing. The thing is, we need those. We need the ministries because they are the ones who will approve the funding. They are the ones who will approve this, that, this. Otherwise, it will not move forward. There's a fantastic committee. They recommend this, so it won't move forward. If the secretary and the additional secretary, who it is not there. That's why even in a meeting like this, if the additional secretary or secretary is seated there, he knows, and we can ask him, what do you say? So that is the future we are looking at. This is the future, the new future that we want to create for the children of our country. We have to create that. We are facing it. How to do it.
So Dr. Saranaka, now I recollect a couple of years ago during Gotabaya Rajapaksa's time, there was a special commissioner general that was appointed to look into rice stocks that was surreptitiously stocked up by rice mill owners in the country. Are you suspecting that rice mill owners, private rice mill owners in the country are still doing that?
In fact, they must be having some quantities, but we can't predict or we can't be sure of that because there's no way to collect data on that. They must be having some quantities, and on the other hand, that quantity acts as a buffer stock also in some cases.
But is this, you always say, Dr. Saranaka, that this data is difficult to get, but I feel it's quite simple because you have the number of hectares, and from if you multiply the number of paddy that comes out from these hectares as rice, and then you check which mills took these rice and how much of stocks did they put out, you get the number of stocks available. Now you can, as a case in point, this is what the Sri Lanka Tea Board does. The Sri Lanka, at the Colombo Tea Auction, you have a number, and that number is divided upon exporters who buy at the Colombo Tea Auction, and then the Customs Department data shows how much of tea has been exported, and that's how you collect the data. It seems very simple, but you make it sound very complex.
Yeah, in case of rice, it is not that much simple. Say for an example, the productivity of our paddy lands, they are varying and they are changing from 1.5 to even 10 to 11 metric tons per hectare. They are varying. And we don't know, even the same area, say for an example, in the same district, like Mulathivu, the one area you are getting around 9 metric tons per hectare, but in the adjacent field you are not getting that much. So it is a bit difficult, not like that. It's difficult to collect that data in that way. The other thing, and the Department of Agriculture is not, if I say correctly.
But don't you think this has to be regulated?
Yeah, it should be regularized.
Where you have to regulate it. If not, we will always face this problem.
Yes.
But also, Shamir, there are agriculture extension officers in every village.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what are they doing while the rice is being harvested?
May I elaborate on that? In fact, the agriculture is not totally the duty of the Department of Agriculture. You know that many of the paddy production area, more than 65% of the land area, is coming under provincial councils, and they have their autonomy. And Mahavali Development Authority, they also involved in agriculture. Irrigation Department, they also in agriculture. Agrarian Service Department, I mentioned it, I think. They also involved in, there are many institutes. But basically, Department of Agriculture, Mahavali Authority of Sri Lanka, and the Provincial Councils of Agriculture, Provincial Departments of Agriculture, they involved in agriculture. So, say for an example, this extension of those areas which are coming under the purview of the Provincial Director of Agriculture, we are not touching that area. It is coming under the purview of the Provincial Department of Agriculture. Yes.
But honestly, Dr. Lanka, this is not a complex problem to have the data.
Yes.
You just have to get a good data scientist from the Morato University and regulate these numbers properly and get it out. And then we will have how much the big rice mill owners in the country are holding or keeping stocks.
Can I add a little? So one thing, the Department of Agrarian Service, to the best of my knowledge, now they are developing this the satellite-based technology development. It is taking place in the department. They are going to measure the exact paddy lands, and they are going to predict the paddy production also. Then in the near future, it will be better.
I just hope so, Dr. Jayanta, because these are not complex matters. You know, if you look at countries like even India, they have a proper regulatory framework to regulate this. Then today when you are here, Dr. Sanaga, you would know exactly how much XYZ have in their stocks and how much does the paddy cultivation board has, development board has, and then you can come and tell me, no, Shamir, don't worry, there is no food crisis in the country for the next 12 months. Every month we have approximately 250,000 metric tons of rice. Anyway, I'm just leaving that aside for the moment. So Tilak, what is the role of the Food First Information Action Network Sri Lanka? What sort of assistance do you all roll out for the people in terms of food security?
Especially what we do it in our capacity, this crisis also having a responsibility of each and everyone. Because of that, we are educating especially it is vulnerable people. Right now, when it comes to the urban situation, especially pregnant mothers are mostly vulnerable, and children, and therefore we are educating them how they can produce something themselves. That is one of we are providing seeds, we are providing some planting material to grow themselves, at least to face the crisis.
So when you say Tiraka, I've always found this very difficult to do, because let's say someone who lives in an apartment.
Yeah.
You are talking about the rural sector. It's okay. Rural villages, people will have a little bit of land, they can grow. There is no problem, and it's not an issue.
Yeah.
This is why Basil Rajapaksa's program to distribute seeds among the urban population became a useless exercise. Why? Because you can't grow vegetables in your backyard when you have a concrete garage.
But if you go into the urban settlements now, even surrounding Ratmalana, we have some fields. They have only the house space. Under that, they are growing at least 25 grow bags. We have distributed in their backyard. The hanging the bottles, and something they do. That is where you need to show them how technology could take place, and there is the very good resource center next to the Katubedda. You may know the place of the Dilma training center, and it's having a demonstration farm, and we bring some of those mothers to there and show them how to do it, and demonstrating it in that center, how can they grow at least their own green leaves. And that is how they can in a way they can come out of this crisis. And we also in the other side, we are also promoting because today we are talking about especially the popular the Sinhalese the word is gedara yana gaman sanskrutiya, and we used to go into the supermarkets and buy the things and go. But the small the people can't afford some of these supermarket prices and all that. Therefore, we also promoting street vending. The people who comes and selling the kira and some other things to their doorstep, and therefore we have chosen to help these street vendors to improve their quality, health conditions, to bring these the cheaper and good food to the people's doorstep.
Yeah, but what is the reason, Tilak? Now, today 100 grams of ginger is being sold at 320 rupees.
Yeah.
100 grams of ginger.
That is because
you take 200 grams, it's 640.
Yeah.
Right.
That is if you look at the food chain, how many people get involved into this, right? This production from farmer, the field, it goes to the ambulla, and then it comes to the neighboring boutique. If you analyze how many people have been involved with the food chain, that is why in popular terms we are talking about food miles, how it is coming into your doorstep, and it having so many.
No, but I remember the problem is, Tilak, the problem is, I think Dr. Professor Renuk also can chip in to answer this.
Yeah.
During our time, when we were small, I'm always reflecting on the past, because I believe the food at that time was very nutritious, and we got 3 meals and a meal from school as well. Our parents used to try and give us mung beans or lentils or cowpea or green gram and all that in the morning. But today, if you go to the shop or supermarket, it's beyond affordability. The green grams was going at approximately 1,100 rupees a kilogram at one point.
I can't afford.
How can people afford it?
Even it is not growing in the country.
Yes.
Because if you look at,
but in a situation like that, mustn't you import?
Yeah, it is
import nutritional food like that and give it at a cheaper price to the students and even children.
That is where as Professor said, we need a kind of the correct data and the proper actions, because you don't know how much you are producing in the country, how many kilos you need to the consumption, and what is the production, what should be imported, and that is missing in a way, because the experience what I having, when it come to some of the local productions like big onion, when our harvest is coming, definitely some of the policymakers are trying to import it when the farmers having buffer stocks, and then farmers will not grow in the next season because they were lost. And that is the experience.
Professor Renuka, you want to chip in?
Yeah, regarding the prices, now as he mentioned that there's a long chain from the farm gate to the consumer. So when you are addressing, especially the rice has a separate issue, you can call it as a mafia. So I'm not going to talk because the rice expert is here, the production expert. Now I'm talking on behalf of the consumer, that's the people's nutrition. So the consumer wants something nutritious at an affordable price, but the food doesn't reach the consumer at the affordable price because there are so many middlemen in our the chain. And then the price regulatory things, the government interventions must play a role to control, and because their responsibilities to regulate the entire food market and provide food at an affordable price to the consumers, then the consumers can get nutritious food. Rice is not the only food nutritious. Rice is just a staple. But as nutritionists, we tell people, eat eggs. Eggs are now expensive, but now the prices have gone down a little bit. Chicken or the meat, expensive. Most of the nutritious the foods are nowadays expensive. Fruits, vegetables, very, very expensive compared to some other foods. Yeah, even the middle class people like us are unable to afford the things. So price regulatory things, it's not the government cannot do everything. They can, and also I do not 100% agree that the government should import all the nutritious food and give them at the affordable price. So who is going to pay that? Again, the people. But as you correctly said, we should not forget about the most vulnerable groups and our social safety net must be strong, and that is also World Bank and everyone assisting. They accept that, because such people must be carefully selected, and then targeted interventions, targeted support should be given, not just blanket coverage. Even that the Triposha program is like a blanket coverage. Everyone wants something given free of charge. That is not, shouldn't be the policy anymore. But most vulnerable, really needed people have to be given. Not all school children may need the free school meal, but very vulnerable, poor the families, poor areas, they need a nutritious meal. But that other people, the tax money should be properly used. Otherwise, as earlier the question was asked, whether the country will get affected because of this malnutrition. Yes, time to come, we will get disabled, I mean not physically disabled, educationally not well fit and fit to the society, and their productivity is low, and then you will see that the country's economy will go down. And it's a well-known thing that if a population does not get the nutritious food in time to come, that particular country's economy will get affected, because people are not very capable in handling that, I mean physically as well as mentally.
Professor Renuka, do you feel that the political leaders have paid enough attention to this nutrition problem of the country, or is it that they haven't paid any attention at all?
They paid attention, but this country, most of the decisions were taken by the political leaders most of the time, not all, but most of the time, thinking about their vote base, but not considering the scientist opinion, and not the technical, not evidence and the research-based decisions. Giving everything free, they have a hidden agenda that we will get the votes, but that is not the way it should be done. And that's why I said that there must be a coordination, especially in nutrition. Agriculture ministry, health ministry, especially work together. But being a person engaging in this field for 25 years, I don't see that kind of smooth coordination.
So we have a question from one of our viewers. Can't the CWE go near the farmers, purchase vegetables, onions, potatoes, etc. using their lorries and sell them at CWE outlets? These commodities could be sold at a very affordable price, reducing the middleman from business. Can that happen?
Surely, yes. Very similar things can happen. Not only the CWE. Yes, definitely that is one way in which we can avoid this. Lots of other expenses coming into to the cost of the product. We can, why not have demonstration farms in every district. We have 25 districts. We have 25 agricultural research stations in those districts. We can make use of them. Make use of them. Kilinochchi, for example. We have an agricultural research station in Kilinochchi. They can give all the inputs for the crops of that area. Onions, chilies. You give the fertilizer. You provide it. You buy the products from the farmers. There's actually down south, Mahailupanam, huge facility there for the dry zone agriculture. They can do that. They can get into it and do this. So that is where the new plan should come like this, to cut that middle cost out. And okay, CW is a good question. Yeah, why not CW? Why not something new? Think something. Get out of this box and think something new. Don't go back to the same thing. Think new. They have demonstration units, have agriculture, the district research stations, having farms and outputs there. That also have value addition. Then you can have value addition. Have bio centers and have. So we have forgotten the dairy farms, the goat farms, the Sri Lanka cattle. If we can increase their yield by 2.3, there's a large number there. Increase the nutrition. Start off with increasing their nutrition. Have a plan to give them good food. Then at least increase the yield by 2-3 liters, not 5-6. They collect it into a bio center. Value addition, cheese, curd, whatever. Value addition centers. Then spread them around. 25 centers.
Now, Professor Atula, these are all very good ideas, yes. But I must say that I'm not an agricultural person, I'm a journalist, but none of what you just said is new to me.
Yeah.
Which tells me something very alarming, that if these things which I know about aren't happening,
yes,
our agriculture sector, our food security is in dire straits.
Yes.
These are very simple things,
yes,
which even children would agree to.
Yes, true. Yes, bring in technology. Bring in technologies. Get new varieties. We have 2,500 traditional rice varieties. 2,500. Each one of them has a fantastic character, mostly medicinal. Niangvi. What is Niangvi? Drought resistant. There's the gene. Take that gene and put it into our traditional rice. There's the technologies there.
Let's ask that from Dr. Senlanka. Niangvi was an example that was brought forward. Can that happen?
Yeah.
Can we do it?
So it is not that much simple. Because the practical problems are there, but yet we have produced some drought resistant varieties. As Professor Atula correctly mentioned, that we are working on that aspect. So very quickly we can't cross that and make the output, or the otherwise putting up the gene, as he mentioned, using biotechnological tools, we can do that. But these things are, there's another, we will go to another step if we try to talk about that thing, because at the moment we can't produce biotechnology developed varieties. Professor Atula agrees with me.
Yeah, because we are talking about genetically modified varieties, but we have a
through the normal
Biosafety Act coming in.
Yeah,
this is the problem with the genetically modified organisms. To improve, we are talking about improving the nutritional quality. The thing is that we are taking a gene from one species and putting it to another. That's the problem. But here, we are saying, take the gene from the Niang V gene, drought-resistant gene, and put it into a rice plant. Rice to rice.
Can that be done?
Yeah, of course
it can be done, but it is even not through biotechnological means. We are doing such type of thing. That's why we have been able to develop a couple of varieties, and they are in the process also.
Dr. Lanka, now those days when at my house when we cook a pot of rice, you could keep it for nearly 6-7 hours without a problem. But why is it that the rice that we are purchasing now from the market gets bad within 45 hours?
It depends on not only the variety, but varieties are okay. It depends on the way it is processed until you get it to your mouth, because the millers and the processing technology is also there. But most of the varieties which we have, they can be kept for a long time, because I personally also cooked our varieties. We eat our varieties and they can be cooked, but due to some processing technologies and processing methods, it may be affected.
So there is a notion in the public domain saying that the rice that we consume, like the Samba varieties, are polished. Is it true?
Yeah, most of the varieties which you buy from the market, they are polished. I think too much polishing. And if you want to have good health, you have to have with this rice bran.
So if you have to maintain good health, what is the variety that you propose, Dr. Chandra?
No, out of all the improved varieties, almost all the varieties are okay. But if you try to eat with some bran, I mean without too much polishing, if you eat it will be better. Otherwise, you have a couple of traditional varieties. Also, all these varieties have plus minus points. So I can't say that all the almost varieties which we have developed, they are giving good results and you can eat them. But we do not recommend the consumption of rice after 2 months.
But I'm sure, Dr. Chandra, you must not be having all the varieties. What do you have at home?
Yeah, this is now generally when people eat 8362, the red color variety, the red color variety, we eat that. Generally, we do not. I should not say. Okay, I say. They're better to eat Nadu type varieties rather than eating Samba type varieties for your health.
So that's some good practical advice.
Advice.
Nadu variety.
Better to eat.
So I want to ask the four of you, what is the way forward? Now we spoke about the problems, what sort of actions need to be taken to arrest these problems, but what is the way forward? If you were to advise the government, I know Dr. Jayanta will now be in a dilemma, being in the government to advise the government. But I would like to ask and pick the brains of the four of you. So let's start off with Professor Atullah first.
Yeah. So, like I said, we need a new future. We don't want to go back to where we were and get into problems again. A new future. It is open, vastly open. We have the rich biodiversity hotspots. We have millions and millions of genes. You open the window, millions. Not a single gene have we identified, cloned and patented. When we say we, it includes me too. Not a single gene. So much we can do. So we need a plan, a national plan with strategies and activities, and the action plans will get the respective institutes roped into this national plan, and in that national plan, time scale, time targeted plans, accountability should also be there, and then we can see how it works slowly, steadily, in a new format, bringing in new technology, value additions. Plantation sector we have forgotten, maybe it doesn't come into the food chain. Why not? Coconut, rubber, value addition, enormous potential, sir. New value added product. We do have value added products from coconut and rubber, but the new markets are vast. Quality. To get those markets, we need high quality. That is where the Sri Lanka Standards Institute, Accreditation Board, they all come in and come into this value addition product. Think of ourselves and think of exports. Think of technology not only for this. We have 2 mountains of medicinal plants. We can produce pharmaceuticals. We have wild flowers in the floriculture areas. We can export. So there's export potential. Look at the good plan, national plan is the need there.
Right. So, Professor Renuka, what are your thoughts?
Okay. Now in this the table that side the experts involving in the production are there. So as I mentioned, I'm talking from the side of the demand or the consumer. Now the consumers get affected because of this the chain starting from the farm gate and how the food comes to me. So in middle the civil society representative is here. Now they don't think that the food, if the food available at cheaper price, always the consumers will consume it. The consumer awareness is important. So then from our side, what is expected by the Ministry of Health and the universities, make people aware of the correct food, nutritious food. So you ask a question about the best rice variety in terms of nutrition and health. So Dr. Jayanta said that it's a kind of a Nadu varieties. Yes. So as a nutritionist, I said yes. And also the question or the solution is not so simple. At the end of the day, how much you eat, the quantity matters, not only the type. Say for example, you can't eat large quantities of Nadu, but you naturally restrict the amount. So similarly, the consumer awareness is important, not only just the awareness. Yeah. So that's why I always believe that the things must start from the schools, and the children should have the good food habits from the school age. So you're still talking about this, your school age probably. You got some good the messages from the school or school time that what you have to eat. Don't think that everyone loves to eat mung bean. People don't like. People like to eat parippu, or that's the dal. So okay, then the government, if the government takes a decision to stop importing dal and promote our mung bean, it is a problem for the government. So everything very complex, but the consumer must know the correct food that they should eat, and at the same time the supply side or the agriculture department, they should supply what is required. So that's why I always said that there must be, you need to look at this not from just one angle, look at the entire food system, the consumer and the supply, and then only we can solve this problem. So don't forget about the consumer preference. You are not feeding animals, you are feeding people. People have their preferences. Preference develop during the lifetime, starting from the school, starting from the preschool. So everyone, the parents have the responsibility. Don't just blame the politicians. Parents have the responsibility to teach the children the right food habits, and the government has and also the middlemen who are in this the chain of the food chain should think about the country and should think about not just the profit, think about the consumer, but the realistically the speaking, the government plays a major role because they have to regulate the things, but they are not there to supply everything free of charge.
Just because there's a big garden in front of the parliament, that doesn't mean that the parliamentarians eat that. No, it means parliamentarians also humans.
That's right. Yes.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. It is to me, I think, as Dr. Renuka earlier said, Professor Renuka also said, there are a multi-stakeholder approach where the 17 ministries and others were responsible to take this decision, what should be eat, what should be the way of production and how it is distributed. And these decisions, as Professor said, the quality is coming from the people or consumers, and they should aware what they are eating, and that's a real challenge. And it is a government responsibility. It is also others' responsibility, where we should give a kind of awareness, and that is our responsibility as civil society, we think, and to get into the real picture, everyone's responsibility to look at broader level this the food and food crisis and the production. And when it comes to the world level, there are a lot of countries now. As Professor said, we are not forgetting our plantation sector. What has been exported. Now the consumer preferences in the Western world is changing. They are asking not the superfood, they are asking the kind of good food and without that much contaminated.
Yes.
And the good food to be served by we have a kind of a niche market in the world with the different product, especially the spices we are selling out, the specialty and all other things. We can produce a different way, which we can get higher market, and it is the world is going on in that direction where we should look at, because still we are thinking the traditional production, the technology can be incorporated, and also the whole world they're talking about agroecology now, and it is been subjected in the agriculture world now. Even the FAO is promoting it in a way. The other problem, the world also talking about blue economy, with the fish what we eat and how the plastic has been plundered into the sea, and all these things has to be looked at in a broader way what we are eating. And with that, I want to say especially the food what we are eating, is it free from the contaminations, and also it has to be a right of everyone.
Thank you very much, Tilak. I now move my attention towards Dr. Jayanta, but before that, Dr. Jayanta, we have a question from one of our viewers. What nutritional value Nadu has since it is white?
You mean this? No, it doesn't say that, because what I am telling that, say for an example.
Because people have a preconceived notion saying white rice is bad, red rice is good.
No, no. Okay, I got it in the wrong way. No, it is not like that. Even the white one is also having the rice bran, the red one is having the rice bran, but once the rice bran is removed from the red rice, we can recognize it. But white one, it is somewhat difficult for people to recognize it. So there will be no very much big difference. Sometimes the anthocyanin and what we call this health,
some antioxidant are there in the red rice varieties. Otherwise, red and white. As a nutritionist, I am telling, there is no major difference in the nutritional point of view. So it's the people's belief and the preference. Down the south, they want to eat red rice, and also the north. But the northerners eat The
type, the big.
that's
The
so
nadu,
that's
right?
a different variety.
That is a big round type.
Yeah, it's quite long as well.
Yeah, no, it's round type.
And it's
Round
not
type.
kekulu, it's again a parboiled.
Parboiled, right.
They use. That's nadu kind of thing. So the nadu is best because in the process, during the processing, when we the parboil, that is boiling the rice before we dry it, all the nutrients in the outer layer goes into the inside and preserve during the milling. When the outer cover is removed, not the husk, but the milling process, most of the nutrients are retained inside. So when we eat, we will get more vitamins and minerals, and also we can't eat a lot. I said that the quantity matters.
Even when it comes to calories, 100 grams of red rice and 100 grams of white rice contain the same amount of calories?
Same.
More or less same.
More or less same.
Okay. Yeah. So, Dr. Jayanta, what's the way forward for Sri Lanka?
Yeah. In
Now,
fact,
I want to ask you, Dr. Jayanta, if you were the Minister of Agriculture, what would you do? But tomorrow you have to go to work. So I want to ask you that. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to rephrase my question and ask you, what is the message you have?
Yeah, first thing, as you correctly mentioned a couple of minutes ago, so we have the data gathering, data collection and data interpretation purpose, and we have to strengthen that one. You know, technically, and as Dr. Renuka mentioned and as Mr. Tilak mentioned, sometimes we face the situation where you can lead the horse to water, you can't make him drink. Because despite the fact that we are developing varieties, we are developing technology, sometimes the farmers may accept, as you very correctly mentioned regarding the mung bean example, these things are happening. But we need more close collaboration among stakeholders, I mean basically institutes which involves in the rice, the food crop production systems. It may be the Department of Agriculture, Provincial Department of Agriculture, and universities and extension arms, and even the general public. We need the close collaboration, and it should be supported by the policies also. This is what
also supported by media.
Yeah.
Of course, Professor Renuka, whatever the government tries to do, we of course will continue to do our role. Sure. There is no question about that, because we will stand with the people no matter what. I recollect in 2015 when the Yapalne government came into power, we said the same thing, and we were the first responders to the central bank bond controversy as well. So whatever it is, we will always stand with the people, and we will always deliver what they want as well. So thank you very much, Professor Renuka Silva, Department of Applied Nutrition, Wambu University, for joining us this evening on Face the Nation. Tilak Karyavasam, Executive Director of the Food First Information and Action Network. Dr. Jayanta Saranaik, Director of Rice Research and Development, Department of Agriculture, as well as Emeritus Professor Atula Pereira from the University of Peradeniya, for joining us this evening on the show, as well as Nivesh Eliathambi, Consultant English News Director at Newsfirst, for joining us this evening on Face the Nation. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. Hunger is not an issue of charity. It is an issue of justice. Take care and good night.